The package that I'll introduce today is i18n-db, internationalization for database collections for Meteor. It was developed by my company Meteor Spark for Chris's company, Tap Events. What it gives is internationalization. And internationalization usually get abbreviated in the IT world into i18n, simply because it's a very long word, and that's why we call it i18n, because there is 18 characters between the I and the N, so it's i18n. And i18n basically means to have a program translated into different languages. So in Wikipedia, for example, you can have Wikipedia in both English, French, and many other languages. That process of getting software ready to be in other languages is called internationalization. i18n-db extends the i18n package. In order to talk about i18n-db, I'll first give a quick reminder about what i18n does, and later I'll show how i18n-db enhances its capabilities. I'll show a quick demo about how to install and use i18n in order to internationalize your app, your Meteor app, to be, in order for its UI to be in a different language. What you see at the beginning is the creation of a new Meteor app, Meteor Create, hello i18n, then MRT add. For those of you who use Meteor, you probably know that it's a pretty old demonstration, because now we don't use MRT anymore, we use Meteor. So MRT add i18n would be now Meteor add i18n. This is how we add the package i18n. What I'm doing here is copying some translation files, which are in the JSON format, that I prepared in advance from that folder into the i18n folder of the hello i18n package. And the files are, there is a file for English, for French, and for each one of them the hello world string is being translated. Now after that, all I need to do in order to have a string translated is to wrap it with the i18n helper, the underscore helper. It's customizable, you can use other helpers if you wish. And this is it basically. I'm now adding a drop down for languages selection. Was implemented, by the way, by Chris. It's from the i18n UI package. And that's all. Now you can see that once I change the language, the hello world changed to the language I'm changing to. Another thing that might be interesting to note is that the translations for the language you change to are being sent to the client only when they are needed, meaning you can see it here. Only once I change to Chinese, the Chinese JSON file will be sent to the client, which make it very efficient library to work with. It right now became the standard for internationalization in Meteor, with more than 1,000 downloads from Atmosphere and 100 stars in GitHub. i18n takes care of the UI. That's all the part that is not in yellow here. The UI are the buttons of your applications and not the content of the application. So this is what i18n-db was built for, to take care of allowing you to internationalize also your content, the same way that in Wikipedia you can translate articles into multiple languages. And the way it is structured in the database is simply by adding a subdocument, which is called i18n, and that subdocument, for every field that you want to translate into a certain language, in this case to Chinese, you simply name the field that you want to translate, and later on, the i18n-db package automatically merges the current user's language with the basic document. So once you use it in the client, it's as developers, it's seamless to you that you are actually using it. Now, for the integration, all you need to do in order to integrate i18n-db, simply Meteor add i18n-db. And afterwards, you need to define what are the languages you want to support. Here we have translation to French, to English, Russian, and Portuguese. And by the way, this is not required if you're already using i18n. It's only required if you want only to translate your content. Later on, you'll have to update your APIs. Those of you who are Meteor developers are very familiar with these APIs. What used to be Mongo.collection changes to i18n collection. Meteor.publish changes to i18n.publish. And inside the publications, instead of using the Mongo.find, you'll use i18n.find instead. And also for subscribe, you use i18n subscribe instead of Meteor.subscribe. That's the only changes you need to make to your application in order to have it internationalized in the content level. That's all. As you can see, you don't need to add more arguments to the publish, for example, that says what is the current language of the user, and you basically need to change nothing but that. Later on, you can translate existing document or inserting new one. In this case, you can see an insertion of a document that, aside from its English content, also has Chinese content. And also, here is an example for existing document that is translated to Russian. Also, all the other things in your app will just remain the same. So if you had an helper that find all the inventors and use it to print them later on in your template, you won't need to change this part at all. You just use the same API for find. Quick feature highlight, transparent language aware publication. As I said, you don't need to tell the publication or the subscription which language is the current client's language. It's transparent to you. That's what the package takes care of. Also, no redundancy at all. On the wire, languages that you don't use at the moment won't be sent together with the document, even though it's a sub-document. And it's also easy to secure and deliver. As you saw, the i18n sub-document is part of the document. It's not a different document, so the same allow deny rules that you apply, or you don't need to worry too much about security because it's very clear where the data resides, because it might be sensitive, certain strings that you have translated. It has a dialect fallback. So for example, if you have Great Britain English and you have also English, and for some reason you don't have a translation for a certain field in the Great Britain, and your user currently uses the Great Britain English, then automatically the field will fall back to English. It's the same also for other languages, not only for dialect. So if, for example, we don't have translation to Chinese for a certain document, then it will fall back to English, or the base language, which is the language that the document itself is being saved in. As you saw, it has very simple integration, and to prove that, I'll have a short demo where I'll translate this presentation. So the first thing to do, as I showed earlier, is Meteor add i18n. Later on, I'll add i18n-db also. Now I'll add the i18n-db package. And I'll also add the i18n UI package, which will give me some UI elements, like a drop-down to select which language I want to use at the moment. This is it. I'll start to integrate. So let's begin from the collection itself. As I said, instead of using Mongo.collection, we'll now use i18n.collection. And this is basically it here. Also, in my publish, I'll use i18n publish instead of the Meteor publish. The same will go to, instead of find, I'll use i18n find. Also for the subscribe. The Slides collection in this case is very simple. There is basically only one field that we're going to translate, which is the content field, and there is another field which takes care of the ordering. So first let's add the list of languages we want to support in this project. English, French, and Chinese Hong Kong. And you can see that I can select between the three languages that I specified in the project i18n file. But of course, nothing is being translated because there are no translations at the moment in the database, so everything falls back to English. And now I'll go to my admin panel. In my slides, if I'll go, for example, to, we saw earlier the live demo slide, the last slide, which will be very easy to translate. Demo. Now, the only content I see now is the English content, and there are no fields because the schema right now, the simple schema, doesn't have specification for the French and Chinese field. So I'll add them too, and then we will be able to go and actually translate it to another language. 1 second. I save that also here. On top of the content field, which is the basic field that saves the English content, we now have additional 2 fields. Both of them are in the i18n subdocument. One is the Chinese translation, and the other is the French translation. Sorry. So back. And now, in my live demo, I can start translate the Chinese to Chinese. In Hong Kong, it's traditional, so we'll take the traditional. This is the translation to Chinese and French. Live demo. In French, it's simply live demo. Okay, we'll take the demo with this. Yeah. So this is in French. And now, once I've updated it, if I'll go now to French or to Chinese, I can start translating. Now, the only reason why, by the way, that we don't have the nice formatting that we have earlier is because I didn't put the correct HTML to it. Just to prove the point, for the Chinese, I'll do it. You see? And it's all the reactivity in i18n-db continue working as you expect. That's complete internationalization capabilities, both for the UI and for your content. Thank you. If anyone has a question, we can take.
So besides text, can you put anything else?
What, for example?
Like images?
Yes, yes, nothing prevents you from that. I mean, the way I merge the fields, if, for example, the field would have binary content there, nothing will prevent you from merging it to the base document. So yes, it can be anything.
But would it not be better to have a static image folder where you have different translations for that image and you simply swap out the URL?
It really depends on your implementation, because if we take, for example, once you know very clear what are your requirements, then maybe yes, but once it's really user-generated content, which you can't really tell in advance what will be the files and how they will be structured, then might not be useful. Yeah.
So you already have a list of supported languages in TAP.
Project TAP 18n.
Yeah, Project TAP 18n.
Right.
Why wouldn't admin panel assume that these are the languages that you have to?
The reason actually is historical, because, as I said, TAP 18n extends the TAP 18n-db extends TAP 18n, and in TAP 18n, a language is considered supported once it has a file. Okay, so it really has to do with the file system. Nothing really prevents you from tweaking TAP 18n-db to support the use case that you specify. Yeah. I implemented the slides application, which has no, I mean, you can have whatever you want in a slide. It doesn't have specifically to have a title or H1 something. So in that case, you usually have the styling together with your content. Wikipedia, okay? If you have text and for some reason the editor decided that a certain part should be bold, it will still get to the database with the styling. Once you go to the UI, what you said is 100% correct, and you should avoid as much as possible from having styling inside your translation strings.
Left to right or right to left?
Yeah.
For example.
Actually,
styling is a part of the
yeah.
content that's coming in.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even having a paragraph in one language might be different to another, so you need to change the markup in that case.
Yeah. And any other question? Thank you again.
Daniel. Also, I think it's really cool how this kind of package can exist only within Meteor because of all of the magic that it does for you behind the scenes. And by creating this kind of package, Daniel's been able to hook into that magic and inject this translation capability with a really transparent interface for the developer. And I think that's a really cool thing about Meteor.